Spirit, all they want us to know at this time of year, it sounds very counterintuitive, but they want us to know that things don't matter. All the things don't matter.
Yeah.
How you feel matters. How you are, if you are happy, that matters. And if the connections with the people you are with are toxic, you don't engage in them, because blood isn't thicker than your sanity, that's for sure. But one of the worst things you can do for your soul is to maintain those toxic connections. So they want us to know that it's not the things, it's really all about you and your happiness at this time of year. And again, it sounds selfish, but what can you do to make yourself happy while still being kind to the people around you?
Welcome back. We are on today with my guest Lynn on I'm Too for This Shit podcast. I'm Angie S, the founder of angies.com, link in the show notes, where I'm a health coach who specializes in biochemistry, genetics, immunology, physiology, and pharmacology. I help my clients via one-on-one coaching, online, and in real life group coaching as well, where I help women like you and me who don't fit into the extremes, help you implement healthier habits that don't manage you. I'm about tips and tricks that work, make sense, and help you stay on top of it without making you bored to tears. So we're talking what you eat, put on your skin, and do to feel your best. I like to bridge science and the alternative. I'm basically interested in what's efficient, what gives you the fastest result, and what is sustainable in the long run. So why did I start this podcast? Well, I started this podcast because I wanted to open up the conversation around less obvious aspects of health, such as sex, dating, relationships, and feeling like a misfit. I think those are a different way of empowering both men, women, and non-binary. And of course, I'm still covering health topics as that's my passion. So today with Lynn, we're talking about surviving Christmas, how to get through all the ups and downs of Christmas. But I realized one thing that I didn't cover during our interview is if you're spending Christmas alone. So I've actually done that twice. One time was out of choice, and the second was just circumstantial. But I like to share what my mom and I do sometimes, and we do this again this year, is that we spend it with an organization or a group for those who have very little or no family to spend Christmas with. And those have literally been some of the best I've had ever since, when we used to celebrate it as a bigger family. And so I've really enjoyed that. And if you're looking for examples where to look for that, you can look at, let's say if you're an expat, there'll be an expat association like the Danish YMCA in London, for example. They hold Christmas gatherings every year, a celebration. And let's say if you're not an expat, let's say you're English and you live in England, there may be association actually for English people, but there may also be, let's say if you're interested in another culture, let's say if you love going to Spain, you love that culture, there probably is like a Spanish expat association around somewhere where you can actually go in and get involved. Because what I've also noticed, for example, with the Danish YMCA in London, is they also actually do have British people come along. So sometimes you may have some sort of an affinity with a different group. And so it's a great way to go. And everyone's in the same boat. So it's not awkward. Everyone brings in like a Secret Santa, which is normally usually like £5 or £8. And you pay like a fee for the meal. And you just go there, you sit down, you enjoy yourself. And most people are strangers to each other. So you're all in the same boat. And so my mom and I are doing this again this year. So I'm quite excited. And yeah, so apart from that, we're covering a few topics today around the holidays and how to navigate awkward questions, or if there's actually no questions at all, with your family. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's begin. Welcome back, Lynn.
Oh, thank you. It's so great to be here.
No, that's really, really super. Thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. I know like a lot of the listeners absolutely loved the last episode we did together. And, you know, it was on how to use your intuition and not your ego and picking your forever person to avoid those crash and burns of the whirlwinds. And so if anyone wants to listen to it, it's episode number 12. It's called Be Psychic, Not Psycho in Love.
Yeah,
So,
I love that title. That's a great title.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's funny. So yeah, so for those who may not have listened to it yet, Lynn, please introduce yourself, where you live, and what you do.
Okay, my name is Lynn Nicholls. I'm an intuition expert and a psychic medium. I live in Niagara Falls, Canada, so I'm sitting here watching the snow fall out my window at the moment.
Oh wow, it sounds like
awful.
It's always it.
You get sick of it.
I guess it becomes your normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so funny because for me, I was like, that sounds like super idyllic, like very, very romantic, but anything becomes normal after a while. So we're doing a two-part on the holiday special. And so we're starting today with Christmas and how to navigate this quote unquote jolly season. So this, Lynn, this will come out on the 23rd of December, just before the Monday, just before the Christmas.
Ah, perfect.
So, and so I was wondering if you could sort of, help us, because I think sometimes they're a bit like two different categories. I mean, there's more than two, but like for those who find Christmas difficult, I have found that it's, because we sort of deal with a lot of outside pressure, especially sometimes as single or when freshly broken up with. And I'm sure if you're in a partnership as well, there'll be expectations there. And all of that is not helped by, the Christmas movies with all the tight-knitted families and your idyllic, romantic partner. And then all the ads on the TV, all that forced jolliness. And it's a lot to look at. And I find like, I also find myself like, excited to go home for Christmas because we're like all hyped up. But then, reality hits, we're all humans, and then it can get weird and awkward at times.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And so, I was sort of hoping, you could help us sort of from your vantage point, help us find out, how we can navigate this. And also because, you talk to spirits, or you talk to dead people, and I'm guessing they'll have, I'm definitely curious to hear what they'll have to say about this. But so I guess in terms of like setting the tone or the flavor a little bit, people sometimes they come across, questions from family, have you met someone? When are you having kids? And for others, it's the opposite. They'll ask nothing about their private life because it's so foreign to them and they just don't know what to say. And it gets to a weird atmosphere and it's just easier just not to bring anything up or say very little about your life, which is, I feel sad about that because it's nice to be able to share your experience in daily life with your family. But yeah, I mean, it's different for everyone. And I guess we're all human. So yeah, so I was just wondered, Lynn, like what would you say, and I guess what would you say to your clients, how to tackle the holidays so we don't lose our minds and revert back to, revert back to a 5-year-old throwing tantrums?
Oh, that's a great question. What's good and what's helpful is what you're walking into. Most of the times, especially if it's with family over and over again. So what I like to tell people to do, because you already know what you're getting into, is before you go, and not just before you go, but a few days before you go, try some visualization, try some breathing, and picture yourself engaging with certain people. And use your imagination as best you can and have them in your imagination ask you those tough questions, those embarrassing questions. And as they're doing that in your imagination, feel how your body feels. Because, some people, just the sight of them gets your blood boiling or your heart racing. So as soon as that person comes into your mind, start breathing more slowly, start thinking, happy thoughts and meadows and unicorns and rainbows or whatever floats your boat. So start calming down with the visualization of this person And then in your mind, have them ask that question. When are you having a baby? And when you visualize that, have them ask that question in a very mean, nasty tone, something they wouldn't normally do, so that you're prepared for the worst, and breathe yourself down, calm yourself down, and then have them ask it again in a more gentle tone and then a kinder tone, and watch it. Pay attention to your body and how it feels more and more calm. And then the next day, you could do this with several people. And the next day or a few hours later, you can do the same thing and see if you're starting at the same point of anxiety or if it's better. And each time you go in, you want to get to the point where you can face them in your mind very calmly. So you might need a month to start this before Christmas. You might only have a couple of hours at this point, but do that. So when it comes to facing them in real life, you've trained your brain to approach the situation or approach this particular person and their questions that you know you're going to get fired at with calmness. So you're retraining your brain, and you can answer them more calmly, even though in your mind you're thinking, oh, go F yourself. I can't be bothered answering your stupid questions.
So would you do the same for like, some some people may have like, I don't know how to phrase this, but like weird face expressions when they look at you and they just don't realize it, but they may look, as if they're sort of very, the look of contempt or just very negative. And it's like, and then when you when you ask them, they always go, well, that's you, they always make it sound like as if you're the crazy one, and they're not looking, they're not even looking at you. And I think you got a lot of the time they don't even realize, or maybe it's just their resting face, because I know I have a bit of a weird resting face myself. So but like, would you do that as well, the visualization? But then what do you say to yourself in that visualization of them looking at you that way?
Well, that's it's not your problem, right? It's they're imposing their thoughts and what they think is right and what society has told them what's right onto you. So they're not going to know how they're coming across to you, because that's how they come across to everybody. So the trick is to not let it get inside your system. And sometimes when I'm talking to a person and they're giving me that kind of bullshit bitch face or whatever they're throwing at me, I almost imagine a wall between us and a mirror facing them. So it's almost like it bounces that back to them. And it's really funny because you'll watch their expression either soften or change, or they'll be like, oh my goodness, look what time it is. I guess I have to go. And it's just the coolest thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to let you see what you're sending out to me. And they don't like it.
No, I like that. That's a good tip, because also,
or just carry a mirror in your purse.
Yeah, just talk to the mirror.
Yeah.
I'm not listening. Okay, yeah, I like that. I will definitely get a weird look back if I do that, but at least it'll be worth it. So actually, that's interesting what you were saying about mirroring it back to them. So it's a reflection of they're just looking at themselves. Because what I've realized, and I think, I'm sure that people listening may also feel this way, is that what I've realized, over time and being an adult, is sometimes when I go home, I'll be fine. I'll be in London, I'll be fine. Everything's okay. I feel like I've come to a good place. So lots of, work and whatnot. And then I go home and it's like, sometimes it can really just crumble away very quickly. And
of course.
But what I've realized, and the reason why I'm saying this is because we were saying about the mirror, is that what I've come to realize is the more I became of an adult, the more I got to know the family from, instead of being like, from a child's point of view, but from an adult point of view, and looking at family more as peers almost, or more equal, is that I think sometimes we pick up also, I mean, there are sometimes obviously our own issues, but there's also a time where we pick up how the other person's feeling. Let's say if you're quite a sensitive person. So I've always grew up being told I was a very sensitive child, like too sensitive.
It's always too sensitive, right?
Yeah. And so and I still am like, I guess I'm like the drama queen in the family. But so it's like, but sometimes what I've realized also is like, I don't even know why I'm feeling this. Sometimes I think I'm picking up other people's state of being that they may not be aware of. And
Of course.
I wonder if that could something you like, what would you, because I've read about this. There's actually, oddly enough, I think she's a princess the princess of Sweden. Wrote a book with her and her best friend. I think it's Sweden, and how she's basically she's way more sensitive than I am, because there's something that I read that I don't relate to, but some of the things I do. And she talks about being hypersensitive and how she picks up on other things, other people's feelings. So, what would you say? Would that be visualization as well? Or what do you do when you're in the moment, in the room with that person, and you're picking up like some weird vibe, and then you think that you're the one who's angry or sad, and actually is, how do you know if it's them or you? And what do you
Oh,
do?
exactly. Yeah, that's a good question, because a lot of people will trigger things from way back when you were 5 or 10. And so you have to very quickly go back. Is this reminding me of my mother yelling at me when I stole the cookies? Is this reminding me, like, where's that same feeling exist in the past? And you can do that very quickly. But if you don't feel like going through that at the moment, save it for later when you get home. Like, when you get back home and you fall apart, don't fall apart, of course. But again, we go back to a bit of, I'm not saying not to care, but you put up a wall around yourself and decide for that moment, it's not going to bother you. So at that moment, and this sounds awful and judgy, start looking at, why is their hair such a mess? And why are their eyes that color? And, start distracting yourself with not so much negative things, but, oh, okay, I kind of like her shirt. So you're kind of listening, but you're focusing on something else. So you don't let it get in. And then you can deal with all the triggers when you get home. So it's just a distraction. Or, oh, look at that pretty tree. Look how the lights are twinkling. And you're hearing them, but you're not giving a rat's ass what they're saying.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So it sort of stops you from
taking it in.
Yeah, it stops you from like losing your shit and then regretting your behavior later on.
Because you'll say something. Yeah,
in
sure.
emotion. Yeah. And I think it's the main thing also is to realize that it's not your stuff. Sometimes I have to sort of remind myself, it's not my stuff. It's not my stuff.
A lot
it's
of
not
times.
My stuff. Yeah.
But on the flip side, if they are saying that something that is intentionally harmful or hurtful, because most people don't. Most people are asking things because they care, or they're trying to be, or they're just damn curious. But if they're saying something that is intentionally rude or harmful, then you are fully justified in saying, I'm sorry, that I'm not going to answer that. That's inappropriate. You're totally welcome to say that.
Yeah. You're setting up for yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah. Of course. Without being an asshole. Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that this, when someone is being blatantly mean or rude, it's easier to almost like cut them out or just ignore them or just clap back, just saying, oh, really? So, but I think it's what maybe like many sort of like struggle with is when the family or family friends don't mean badly. They actually mean well and they care. They almost care too much. They worry too much. And that's so annoying because it's like, it makes you feel like a kid again. And it's just that horrible thing. And I think sometimes you can come back from the holidays and it's like this mixed feeling of you sort of almost want to go back immediately because you miss them. But at the same time, you're like, I need to recover because I feel like I've been bruised like every single day and I need to just get back to myself. You need a week to recover. But it's not because people are mean. They don't try to. It's just sometimes with what is sort of almost mean, it sort of reminds you of. And sometimes maybe I guess it's both ways, right? Because you feel like they're judging you, but in a way, I'm judging too. And I think,
and we're judging ourselves.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I think, and I feel it's like, and if you feel sorry for someone, you feel bad for someone, it's hard to feel empowerment through that. And I find that sometimes that's the whole thing, like with, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The holidays and going home. Oh,
yeah, and you have to walk into these situations not in a cocky, arrogant way, but like what you're talking about, but feeling empowered and feeling confident because you know that you have made the right decisions with your life. And if you are happy with your life and your decisions, you don't have to prove a damn thing to anybody. So you can say what you need to say as long as you say it kindly. And if you are confident in what you feel, it shouldn't bother you. It shouldn't. But I know it feels so judgy, and you have to immediately attack that feeling in your own mind because we're hardwired. Our brains are hardwired to see the negative. It's been proven over and over.
yeah.
So you have to attack that and say, nope, I'm not taking on that judgment. I'm not feeling that judgment, and feed your brain the opposite positive thought to combat that judgy thought.
Yeah, I love that. Just you saying, and I know you were talking, stuff in general terms for, for people who listen, but just hearing you say you've made the right choice for your life, and it feels good. Like, I know I have, but like, it feels good to hear someone else say it. I'm like, that's all it takes. If there are any mothers and fathers or anyone who has like younger family members listening to this, just say that to your child or your niece or your nephew. Even if it doesn't matter, it just feels good.
It really does.
Yeah. Even if people don't need like reassurance and validation or something, but it feels good. So
it does for sure. And if you're at a party or a get together, whatever, and you're getting those questions and it's getting inside you, it's getting under your skin and you're getting rattled, it's entirely okay to take a break. It's okay to just step outside, go sit in your car, put on your favorite song. And you have to catch it at the beginning. When your heart rate's starting to go, and when that brain to mouth filter is about to just malfunction and you're going to say something. So it's okay to just say, oh, excuse me, I got to go. Or you pretend your phone buzzed. It's the classic, like the first date rescue text, right? Oh, yeah. I got to go.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to answer this text right away. And worst comes to worst, it's really okay to leave a party early if it gets too much.
Yeah. And I love going for walks. I think like when that's how I do now, if I feel like my blood's about to boil over, I literally leave the house and I just go for a walk until I've calmed down.
Perfect.
Because there's no point, because I know I'll just say something stupid and mean, and I'll be like, and then I'm the bad guy again. So I just have to like leave the house, come back to calm down. But I'll think about that thing with the wall, because sometimes you can feel other people's energy, and it's almost like feels like a physical discomfort. It's like, just put that wall up. I'm going to picture that now.
Oh, for sure.
And I think it protects them too, because they probably don't like my vibe either when I'm feeling that way. So
not
it's
at all.
two-way thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything? So let's say, I'm thinking like, not wanting to get, too dark. Some of us have experienced either quite young or later in life, the family size getting smaller because, you lose people to death and that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I just wondered, that sometimes can be quite a trigger, Chris, the holidays. I was just wondering, how would you, because it can be very demoralizing and very rough. So is there a way, how would people, like, how would you help people to deal with that?
With just losing somebody before the holidays?
Yeah, or even the year on, like the first, they may have lost them in February, but this is now the first Christmas. There's always the first, after Christmas, always like the first birthday, the first New Year,
awful.
The first
Christmas. Anything.
Yeah.
The first anything in that year. Well, Spirit, they're there. They're celebrating with you. And I know it's hard to get through it and it's hard to appreciate it, that they're around, because we miss them, but they can't miss us because they're right there. And I find a lot of people are worried that their dad that passed away is missing them at Christmas. No. Your dad is with his parents and his grandparents and all his aunts and uncles and his ancestors from 200 years ago, if he chooses to be. And you could have 500 spirits in your house for Christmas. So they're always right there. And people often say, I just wanted a sign from my dad. I just wanted to know he was around. Well, the trouble with spirits giving signs at Christmas, especially the first Christmas after they've gone, is they can't connect. They have trouble connecting through extreme emotions, whether it's extreme sadness or anger or joy and delight. If there's extreme emotions, they have trouble connecting. So what I would tell people is to find a time, remove yourself, or just sit if you can't remove yourself, just sit amongst your company, but go inside your mind and try for just a few moments not to miss that person and not to think about how hard it is that they're gone, but just to imagine that they're sitting there with you. But don't get upset and don't get overjoyed, and just feel the calmness of their presence and say, let me know you're here, and make it really obvious. Because sometimes through all this holiday commotion, and there's people and there's food and there's presents being unwrapped, they might be trying to send us a sign, but we don't see it. There's just so much going on. So you have to find that neutral mind space and that calm space just for a few moments. Don't be sad, don't be happy, and say, let me know you're here. And see if you feel cold or tingly or warm, or suddenly 11:11 catches your eye on the clock, or a picture falls off the wall. So it can be really cool things like that you will find the signs in your stillness. And then you can go back to all the emotional part of the holidays.
What's with the picture falling off or the book falling off? Are they how do I say this? It's almost like they're like little rebels or like rock and roll, rockers,
real mischievous.
Yeah. We're gonna break that one. That's not a good picture of me anyway.
I'm totally doing that when I get over there.
Yeah. Those pictures should not be up there. Yeah.
They want to catch your attention. Mm-hmm. So they'll try to do something. Without scaring you, but get your attention, which is really cool. I have a cute little story that happened to me, and not because I'm psychic, but just because, you notice what you notice. Yes. Don't read too much into things, but notice what you notice. And one Christmas, my mom passed away in 2005. And the first Christmas after that, she passed away in November. So the Christmas after that, it was very,
that's very close.
Intense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were driving up to my sister's house. She lives about an hour and a half away. And I was the passenger, and I had brought my dog. And anything like just petting a dog or a cat brings your mind into stillness, right? And it just calms you down. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what, Mom, it would be really wonderful if you were here. I don't know where you are. I haven't heard from you very often, but just let me know that you see me. Let me know that you're here with us. And at that very moment, a car pulled in front of us, like nearly clipped us, pulled in front of us. And the license plate was 6 letters. It said, I see you.
No.
Space KID. I see you, kid.
No.
And then it took off. Oh my gosh, yes. So much yes.
Oh my God, no.
I get goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing. It was like, because I was able to get to that petting the dog kind of stillness. And it's not because I do what I do. It's like, okay, Mom, did you make that driver cut us off so we'd look up suddenly and, you look up and there's the license plate right in front of you. I see you, kid. And then it took off. And I was like, this is the best Christmas ever. It just felt so good.
Oh yeah, I don't even know how I would cope because losing my mom, I don't know how I would cope. That's like,
it's a tough one.
That's really, really rough. You've mentioned a couple of times now that be like bringing yourself to stillness to connect with them. Why is it that they can't cut through extreme emotions like the spirits?
Okay, that's just how they operate on the other side. It's like, now if you went into a room and there was like 8 or 10 people and they were screaming and yelling at each other and everybody, or on the other side, they were drinking and drunk and they were yelling and laughing, and you went in and said, excuse me, everybody. They couldn't hear you. Right? Someone might catch a glimpse of you, but they go back to their screaming and yelling. So that's how I compare our emotional state of mind is to a room of very loud people and some little meek, mild person. Not that I think you're meek and mild, to be honest, but,
That's right.
but somebody coming in and just saying, excuse me, you're not going to see it. But if the room calmed down and you said, excuse me, everybody would look.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I compare it, is the emotions to a room of very loud people.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's a good thing that the spirits are not loud, because I think it'll freak a lot of us out.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. So for many of us, when we hear, about the spirits and dead people, it literally is like a foreign language. I think a lot of us, I'm certainly not aware if I am or not. Sometimes I do feel things, but I definitely cannot say that I'm talking to dead people. It's not a concept that is in my everyday life. So I was wondering, for those of us who aren't, familiar with that and don't talk to dead people and don't know how to connect with them, and maybe we're too emotional, what are the ways to keep our mental energy strong during the holidays, so that we also do not need to have a week after the holidays of just having to, recuperate and just feel strong again?
Oh, yes, exactly. You need a vacation from Christmas.
Oh,
You
yeah.
really do.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important that people, there is a lot of commotion, there is a lot of excitement, but it's important for them to just enjoy every moment, because if it gets too overwhelming, you're not going to enjoy it. And just like you said, like, go out and take a walk. So if it gets overwhelming, but stop and enjoy that dessert. Like, eat very slowly, enjoy the feel of it in your mouth, enjoy the taste of it, or sit right beside the tree and look at the ornaments very closely. Just take it all in. Be present. Be mindful of all the moments, and make sure you have time. I'm not saying to schedule it in your day, but just find a few moments, not hours, but a few moments to do that. And you do have to slow it down, slow your mind down. Not like, when am I going to get the turkey ready and the corn's not going to be ready at the same time? Because we tend to start going into panic mode for sure at that time. And always, and it sounds selfish because holidays are supposed to be a time of giving, but always put yourself first. If this isn't working for me, if this environment, the setting, the situation, if it's not working for me, I have to go back to my toolkit of my Christmas survival with the family toolkit and pull out my mindfulness, my walk, my pet my dog. You have to have a Christmas survival toolkit to get through the holidays, and pack it beforehand. And this is just something that you pack in your mind, but know you have some go-tos to get back to those things, because Spirit, all they want us to know at this time of year, it sounds very counterintuitive, but they want us to know that things don't matter. All the things don't matter.
Yeah.
How you feel matters. How you are, if you are happy, that matters. And if the connections with the people you are with are toxic, you don't engage in them, because blood isn't thicker than your sanity, that's for sure. But one of the worst things you can do for your soul is to maintain those toxic connections. So they want us to know that it's not the things, it's really all about you and your happiness at this time of year. And again, it sounds selfish, but what can you do to make yourself happy while still being kind to the people around you?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is like, it is hard, especially if people have, smaller families, for example, if they have dynamics that are toxic, to stay away, because then you emotionally kind of need each other, and you love each other, and so you'd feel guilty not being there. And that could translate to anything, whether it's Christmas or just going home to visit, for anyone who lives away from family, like myself. Like, you sort of, you go home, you want to make sure everything's okay, and you want to visit and you miss them. But then, sometimes for some people, there can be some toxic dynamics. So that is hard to like, you can't really get away from when it's a small group of it's two of you, it's like, where'd you go? It's like, so it could be a very lonely time because everyone's like just in their own room and no much talking.
Yeah.
But two is
find the room in your mind.
Yeah.
If that's the case.
Yeah. Well, so how do you find that door to the room in your mind?
Yeah, it'd be nice sometimes if just a trap door opened underneath some people and they dropped out. But you have to.
No.
Yeah, you have to create it beforehand. It's like part of your Christmas survival kit. And where can you go in your mind? And what place can you go that makes you feel happy? And how can you ignore what this person is saying and ignore what they're triggering? It's all what you pack beforehand to bring to family Christmas.
So circling back to what you were saying in the beginning with the manifestation, not manifestation, the visualization of how you would, I guess, how imagine them doing something or saying something, and then how choosing a response. And then also maybe like finding, like you said, like a happy place in, like it could be a memory. Is that what you mean? Like going to a happy place? Yeah.
Or if your happy place is a beach somewhere or in a castle, whatever it is, you have to it has to be an emotional connection to it so that your visualization can distract you from all of the garbage that's being thrown at you. But I understand that if you have a small family, you feel obligated to be there. But that's a tough one. I don't know if I could stand it for very long without losing my mind. So let's turn on a movie or so everybody's in the same room and enjoying each other's company, but we don't have to talk. So if there's a way to do that, that would be ideal.
I get it's funny because sometimes you never know, because sometimes you go home and things are super great, and other times it's like, oh wow, what just happened? But I think like the second thing I wanted to say about, in response to what you were saying just earlier, is that I think for those, I mean, maybe not everyone has experienced this, but maybe there may be some years where you go home and nothing's been prepared, nothing's been made special for you, like it's just like a random meal of it, and everything just, there's no trees to look at, there's no nothing to look at, there's no nothing. I think, or wherever it is that you encounter, so you go home and you get all these odd questions, or you have a weird, you're feeling really weird about things. I think that's also a way, it's almost like life showing you what is it you need to heal, or what are the things that, what are the things that you are attracting in your life, or what's blocking you. So let's say, for example, you go home, you live away and you go home, you're almost like, bothering people or whatever it is. Let's say if you feel that way, then maybe you can look in and go, oh, okay, now I get it. This is actually maybe why I'm always attracting, partners or dating people who make me feel like I'm not worthy, or that I feel like in my job they don't see me, So it's almost like like you get to actually notice what's real and what's not real, because that's just a feeling of familiarity. But then when you go back from Christmas, you go back to where you live, you go, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, or I'm going to choose not to look at things this way anymore. It's just showing me what it is that I didn't realize was going on the whole time inside of me, and I'm projecting. So that's also, you can use it, you can almost turn it around and go, okay, well, it is what it is, but I'm a grown up now and I'm going to choose to do this differently. And I can see why I've been doing X, Y, Z the whole time.
Perfect. And I wish more people would do that and spend it just takes a few minutes to do that and look back and do some reflecting. And it's hard to look at yourself, but it really moves you forward. So next time you go into a situation like that, you're better prepared and you're more confident and you're more sure of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also, what I would say to people is, like you were saying, you have to prepare yourself. I think you can always like make a list of what you've got going on, because sometimes people will focus on an area of your life that may not be of a priority for you. So for example, if they ask you if you have a boyfriend, or, do you eat like that on dates? If you have a list of what you've got going on, let's say you've taken up a new hobby, or you've learned a new skill, or you've got some new colleagues you're really excited about, or you've got promotion, make a list, because there's always something in the whole year. Like in 12 months, there will be a few things that you can actually be proud of and write down. And I think that will help also,
of course,
get people to back off a little bit,
Yeah.
And Yeah, and I think also just maybe also understand that sometimes people don't know what to ask if their life is so different or if they know nothing about your lifestyle. And it's just they're going based on what they know. So if someone, they got married when they were really young and they've got 5 kids and they maybe stay-at-home mom or they've got a shop, in the village next door. And that's all they've been doing, their whole life. So when they see, you've got a very different life, because now today's day people just they're so mobile, everyone like lives in different cities or travel wherever it is, and portfolio careers, change job all the time. So if you have that, they just understand that sometimes people just have no clue and they're just maybe a bit insecure as well. I think that helps to not
Exactly.
lose it because it
Yeah,
can do
yeah. Try not to lose it.
yeah.
Make it light, make it happy. And you know what? Nobody ever asks, are you happy? So
Yeah, I know.
it's like, what's your job? Do you have a boyfriend? So you could say, oh, I'm administrative assistant at such and such a company, and I'm happy, because that will stop them in their tracks. Or no, I don't have a boyfriend. I'm single, but I'm really happy. I have lots of friends. So
Yeah.
if you interject, I'm happy, they have nowhere to go. Even though I know they're not trying to be, hopefully not trying to be malicious or mean, but are just asking out of hopefully not too much curiosity, but caring or whatever.
Yeah.
If you say you're happy, then they've got nothing to complain about.
And I think let's say, because sometimes this can be a bit of a hard, because what is happiness, and we'll get ups and downs. But I think almost like if someone says, like, are you okay? Do you feel you're on track to what you want to do? Do you need help with anything? I would be a lot more open to have enter
for
into
sure.
conversation with that person. I think, and I think that could be also something that, let's say, if you go, anyone who's listening and go home and they maybe have someone they don't know how to relate to, a cousin or something. If you say, how are things for you? Like, let me know if there's anything I can help with. I mean, I do XYZ in my job. So, I don't know. It could be in that kind of, if you, sounds like you're networking with that, but that's not what I mean. But like, if people will be less on the defensive, and it's just
Of
a more
course.
engaging conversation. Yeah.
That's a more it's a more intelligent question. Like if you ask that, and it's more engaging, and it doesn't sound so judgmental or like they're attacking you. Yeah, and you're right. They're coming from their place of understanding and their life experiences. So you have to take that into account. And like what you mentioned before, sometimes you go home and fall apart because of a question or two questions. So you need to figure out, not you personally, but people need to figure out, what is it about that question that actually triggered you? Like, why couldn't you just blow it off? So, and then that gives you a jumping off point to move forward.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think also, if you want people to stop asking the same questions, don't react to them, because the more you react, the more they know that, the more they're like, oh, I'm right. I'm obviously touched a nerve. So just don't react. Is there anything else you wanted to say around the Christmas holidays before we wrap up?
Oh, I want to tell people that even though they have lost someone, it doesn't mean that they can't enjoy the holidays, and to please know that your loved ones and your friends in spirit are always with you, and ask for it. Ask for them to be there, and notice what you notice. See if you see what you feel. But all spirit wants us to do is be happy. So if you can even find a moment of happy, that, or joy, or just calmness, that would be beautiful for them. And they'll be there cheering on beside you and having dinner with you. So please don't feel that they miss you, because they're right there. And I'm not saying it gets easier. We learn to move forward with grief, but do what you need to do to make yourself happy. If you want to start a new tradition in their honor, create an ornament for them every year, whatever you need to do, go right ahead and do it. That's what Spirit wants you to do.
I like the idea of the ornaments. Yeah, I like little rituals. So that's quite nice. So please, Lynn, tell us where people can find you.
People can find me online at lynnickolls.com, or on Facebook at Lynn Nicholls-Psychic Medium, and Instagram, Lynn_Nicholls. Basically, if you search for Lynn Nicholls, I'm going to pop up somewhere.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this, Lynn. And
you're welcome.
Thank you. And we'll be back next week for the New Year's and how to create resolutions and manifestation and all of that. So I'm excited about that one too. And I'll speak to you soon, Lynn.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That's it. That's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, follow on Spotify, or for all of the other platforms. Whichever way you show love is how you can support this show. Drop me your questions or suggestions for future episodes via the website at angie-s.com. Link in the show notes. Or come and find me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One is Too Old for This Shit Podcast, and the other one is Health Lifestylist. Again, links in the show notes. See you next week, and until then,
using health inappropriately.